Brittany Madison, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? First things first, I put together 2 clips of Canelo Alvarez sparring, so that's what you guys are watching in the background. The first clip is Canelo Alvarez sparring with Ronald Ellis. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the actual video. So Eddie, he came out and he said some of the same things you have heard me say when it comes to this fight against Bivol. But it's more surprising to hear it from Eddie Hearn, because Eddie Hearn has made it no secret that he is desperately willing to do whatever it takes to stay in the Canelo Alvarez business. I mean, Eddie Hearn, he literally said that. He said this before this fight, that he is desperate to work with Canelo Alvarez, be in the Canelo Alvarez business. Which is why, even though it surprised a lot of people to hear Eddie Hearn say recently that Canelo Alvarez may be the greatest fighter of all time, it didn't surprise me that much, because once again, Eddie, he already made it clear that he wants to be in the Canelo Alvarez business, which is what makes Eddie Hearn's breakdown of the Canelo versus Bivol fight even that more interesting, because a lot of what he said did make sense in terms of breaking this fight down. Let me go ahead and play the clip of what Eddie Hearn said exactly, and then I'm gonna take it from there. Check this out.
And you recently said Bivol is Canelo's toughest fight. Outside of Floyd.
One of the toughest
fights.
Yeah,
outside of Floyd. Why do you believe Bivol is that dangerous?
Because Canelo has no right to be at 175 pounds. He's not anywhere near a light heavyweight.
The only way Canelo's going to get beat is to move completely out of his comfort zone in terms of weight divisions. He's already doing that at 175. Like, he shouldn't be fighting at light heavyweight. You know that. I mean, this is a guy who's boxed at welterweight, 154, 160 was even big for him at the time. Now 168, 175. But Dimitri Bivol, the difference with him is he lives the life. He's incredibly fresh. He's never been in a tough fight, really. He's never been damaged in a fight. He's got great feet. He's got great fundamentals. He can punch. And he may be the best light heavyweight in the world. Beterbiev is a different kind of style. But this is a very dangerous fight. I put this right up there as one of the most dangerous fights Canelo has had. And everyone just presumes in Canelo fights that he's going to stroll through these guys. But in these weight categories, this is where the danger lies for Canelo Alvarez against a big, strong, fresh light heavyweight. You saw him struggle against Kovalev. He was behind in that fight going into the 11th round. Kovalev was not fresh. Kovalev was not in his prime. He was still a very good light heavyweight. But Bivol is different, and Sales pointed that out.
Okay, so you guys heard Eddie Hearn. He said that Canelo Alvarez struggled against Kovalev. He was behind on the scorecards when he knocked out Sergey Kovalev. I have been telling you guys in my previous videos that I've been watching the Canelo versus Kovalev fight. At one point, I was watching that fight, and then I would watch Bivol versus Smith Jr. and Bivol versus John Pascal. Now, when it comes to Kovalev, obviously Kovalev has a lot of similarities with Bivol. They're both around the same height. They're both Eastern European and have somewhat of an Eastern European style. But what separates Bivol is, like Eddie Hearn said, Bivol is fresh. Bivol is in his prime. Bivol's never been knocked out before. And while Sergey Kovalev is more flat-footed, he's more heavy on his feet, Bivol, on the other hand, he has great foot movement. He can move side to side. He can move back and forth. He's definitely a better boxer than this version of Sergey Kovalev. He has a better defense. He's more versatile with his offense and defense. Eddie said Canelo Alvarez can only get beat if he's out of his comfort zone. Fighting the best competition is what takes Canelo Alvarez out of his comfort zone. It can't be the weight class, because Canelo Alvarez got completely dominated by an old, much smaller Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather had already moved up 5 weight classes. Canelo outweighed him by 15 pounds. So if Floyd Mayweather wasn't out of his comfort zone, there's no way Canelo can be out of his comfort zone just fighting at 175. Eddie Hearn, he also said that even when Canelo fought at 154, that weight class was too big for him. Now just remember, when Canelo used to fight at 154, he used to come in at the Canelo weight. He had his own weight division, and it was 155. But Canelo Alvarez would rehydrate to like 20 or 30 pounds the night of the fight. Even in the Amir Khan fight, Amir said that Canelo Alvarez was 187 pounds the night of the fight. Miguel Cotto said that Canelo Alvarez was 180 pounds the night of the fight. But you don't have to just take their word. Look at this photo I have on the screen right here. That's not Photoshop right there, guys. That's an actual photo of the Miguel Cotto versus Canelo Alvarez fight. This is the reason why Canelo Alvarez is fighting at 175 today. We also have to remember, I've been telling you as well when it comes to this Bivol fight, Canelo hasn't been in a fight this tough since the Gennady Golovkin fight. That fight didn't happen at 175. That fight, it happened at 160. Many people believe that Canelo Alvarez, he lost both Golovkin fights. Then you have the Erislandy Lara fight at 154. So it's not a matter of what weight class Canelo fights at, it's the different styles that give Canelo Alvarez problems. Now, I would agree with Eddie Hearn that there's no doubt about it, Canelo moving up in weight and fighting skilled guys is far more dangerous. Because what happens is when you do move up in weight and you are facing bigger and stronger opponents, you can't make the same mistakes you made at the lower weight classes. You can't get hit with the same punches you were getting hit with at the lower weight classes. This is how Nonito Donaire got knocked out for the first time in his career. This is how Roman Chocolatito got knocked out for the first time. Both fighters moved up in weight. And just like Canelo Alvarez, when they were in the smaller weight classes, a lot of opponents would be outboxing them, and then they would rally late and they would stop their opponents. So basically, they had somewhat of an equalizer to bail them out of trouble. Canelo Alvarez will always have power that's going to help him. But yeah, when you are fighting against someone who has the skill of a Bivol and they have the power that can match your power, that is definitely what makes this the most difficult fight for Canelo Alvarez since the Gennady Golovkin fight. But once again, it's not just the fact that Bivol is at 175, it is definitely a combination of his skill set and him being at 175. But you guys have to remember, David Benavidez is not at 175, he's at 168. And then you also have David Morrell, who's at 168, which is possibly the one guy that could beat Canelo Alvarez more decisive than anyone from 168 to 175. Because if Canelo Alvarez struggled against Erislandy Lara, David Morrell, he can fight on his back foot and he can fight on the front foot. He can fight on the inside. He can pretty much do it all. So at the end of the day, every single division that Canelo Alvarez was in, he had someone that could take him out of his comfort zone. At 154, Jamel and Jamal Charlo, they were both champions calling out Canelo Alvarez. At 160, Andre was a champion and Jamal Charlo was Canelo Alvarez's mandatory. Charlo ended up becoming the champion because Canelo Alvarez decided to vacate his belt rather than fight him. Then at 168, you have David Benavidez. And now because Canelo Alvarez, he had no other choice but to either take a PBC deal, which included fighting Jamal Charlo first, then he would fight Errol Spence or David Benavidez. Or the DAZN deal, which is the deal that Canelo Alvarez took, Bivol, and then Triple G. Remember guys, by Canelo Alvarez's own admission, if it were up to him, Makabu would have been next. It wasn't originally going to be Bivol or Jamal Charlo. DAZN, they understood the only way they had a chance of making money with Canelo Alvarez is if they forced Canelo Alvarez to take the toughest challenge, which is the Bivol or the Golovkin fight. And then, of course, if Canelo got past Bivol, then they could put Canelo Alvarez in there with an easier opponent like a Makabu or a John Ryder. Now, let me close out with saying this. I've already told you guys when it comes to the Bivol fight, Outside of Canelo Alvarez hurting Bivol bad or even knocking him down, I can't see Canelo winning a lot of rounds in this fight. Caleb Plant is extremely slow on his feet, and he's fighting against someone who has great foot movement. And the difference from a Bivol and a Caleb Plant is Caleb Plant, he was moving around the ring, but he didn't really have any type of power. I mean, even though Caleb Plant, he tries to fight like a Floyd Mayweather, but the truth is when Floyd Mayweather was popping Canelo with jabs, they were hard, stiff jabs. When Plant was throwing jabs, they were like these baby jabs. Caleb Plant didn't have the Jamal Charlo power, the David Benavidez power, or even the Dimitri Bivol power to get Canelo Alvarez's respect. The reason why Canelo was down on the scorecards against Kovalev is because Canelo Alvarez respected Kovalev's power, even though Kovalev wasn't in his prime. Bivol is in his prime, and he's a much better boxer than Sergey Kovalev. So I truly believe this is an uphill battle for Canelo Alvarez, but if Canelo can pull off the win without any controversy, it would be the biggest win of his career. Because you can't include the Golovkin fights. Both of those fights ended in controversy. The Lara fight ended in controversy, and he lost the Floyd Mayweather fight. So that would mean that Canelo Alvarez's biggest wins was when he was fighting against massive underdogs like Caleb Plant, like Avni Yildirim, Rocky Fielding, Amir Khan, or Caleb Smith. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.